How's everyone doing? Here is your Southeast region recap of what we saw, and we're gonna talk a little bit what maybe we're gonna see next weekend down in Hershey. Sitting to my left here is Nate Heckenberger from. You can introduce yourself a little bit.
From the Daily Local News, I cover Chester County Wrestling, and yeah, I've been doing it for a while now. So,
All right, well, Nate, we saw some good wrestling this weekend. Some surprises, some return state qualifiers sitting home. Some guys from Chester County that you cover not making the return trip, unfortunately. So obviously some surprises. Why don't you start with some guys that you thought were going to make it out that didn't make it out?
yeah, I mean, just starting close to where I cover, started at 120. Brett Callender, I thought had a good shot to get out, even though he had a tough draw with Marino first, and Sheffield, the way he's been wrestling from
Yeah.
Oxford. I thought for sure Chesmont would get one out of there, but they ended up getting shut out. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a deeper tournament this year than in years
Forgetting
past.
Taylor too.
Taylor too, yeah, he got hurt, Friday night, never came back. But I just thought it was a deeper tournament in general. I think I don't know if the top tier talent is as good statewide as it has been or it could be, but I think from 1 to 12, it was a little bit deeper this year than in years past, and I thought that made for a good tournament. And yeah.
Yeah, with that said, I love the random draw that they did this year, and talking, fast forward to this, like, Nate talked about some of the Chestmont kids that stayed home, and you look at down the weight classes. There's plenty of talent that didn't make it out, and he mentioned Sheffield, Taylor, Counter. Those are three tough kids right there, and two of which made the Hershey last year. Let's like switch gears and talk about who's going to represent us. They did the random draw, and it was.
So I'm not sure how random that
Yeah,
was, but
exactly. Good point. We talked about it during the broadcast with Glenn Kaiser when Bill Rudick and I talked about in the preview for tonight. We weren't sure how random it really was because it set up the premier. What was I thought on paper to be the premier matchup
yeah,
for the finals
they
of.
might have randomly drew it 5 or 6 times till they got what they
Exactly.
wanted, but
Maybe there's only one weight class in that draw.
yeah, that's probably true.
But I made the comment to Glenn, like, if you're gonna random draw, and you want that premier match in the end, draw all of them random, so it gets a lot of randomness.
Oh
But the
yeah,
one thing it did accomplish, it kept the people in the seats, and that's nice to see. A lot of people might have hightailed it out after that Cronin Palmer match if it went down in order at 138. So with that said, obviously if you looked at the box scores, you looked at online or watched our broadcast. 138 was the final match, and was a good match. There was action, not a lot of scoring, 1-0 match. But I picked Palmer early. He came through with the win. To me, I wasn't impressed with Cronin. I didn't think he wrestled a good match. I feel like he didn't get any of his setups going. He didn't get to his offense, and again, to credit Palmer, that's what the type of wrestler he is. And that's what he does to you.
yeah. I thought Palmer had the upper hand coming in just because of the schedule he wrestles and the room that he's in. Not to take anything away from Upper Darby, they obviously had a tougher schedule this year than in years past, but yeah, it seemed like Cronin was a little hesitant to take shots and give it a go. He kind of waited till even the last second to try to throw that headlock to for a last gasp takedown attempt. So there's a couple of those tonight that were the 1-0s that you just waited for something to happen and it never happened. So.
Yeah. So that was our marquee matchup. We talked a little bit about that. JT Cooley is also going. He finished fourth, but the surprise of the tournament, one got opened my eyes. And again, we've talked before. We cite room, we cite schedule, we cite who they wrestle, all that stuff. And the least likely guy I think they would come out of 138. One of the least likely guys was Abraham Charles, and all he did was beat Matt Kriebel 10-3. Beat returning state qualifier Colin Devlin 4-2. Got pinned by Colin Cronin, but then drops down, and then he beats Kriebel again. And he gets injured defaults. He finished third. He almost got a standing ovation from the crowd tonight, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you see some of those, not to be mean, but you see some of those Del Val schools on the bracket, and you almost just pencil in whoever they're going against. Just because, for one, you hardly ever see those kids during the season. They're not really at any of the big tournaments. They have sometimes elevated records, and you just kind of assume, well, they didn't wrestle anybody. But, they certainly churn out a few good kids each year, and Abraham was that guy this year.
Yeah, Penwood seems like every year that they just get that one guy through, and again, credit to their staff. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head who they are, but guys, I'm giving you a ton of credit. You're doing something right down there, and keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully keep growing that program because Abraham Charles was super impressive today. Someone on the forum posted he was the MVP of
Yeah.
or the outstanding wrestler of day one, and he was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Two big wins and matches that probably everyone you said on paper had him like the heavy underdog, and okay, he got Kriebel, and it was maybe Kriebel didn't wrestle well. No, I didn't think Kriebel wrestled bad. It was Charles wrestled that much better.
Yeah, and sometimes it's those kids that don't have a ton of expectations. You get down in the consolations, they don't feel the pressure that some of the favorites are feeling. They just go out there and I mean, against Devlin last night. Devlin's probably a heavy favorite, making the states last year, and Charles just takes him down at the end and rides him out and gets the win. So kudos to him.
Yeah. So let's now change it up again. 145. All Pac-10 final. Rematch from the Pac-10 finals 2 weeks ago. Third time they wrestled on the year, was split 1-1, and Bryce Reddington again coming out the win. He had probably the toughest of tough roads to get there. If you look at what he did coming at the top half of the bracket, his road was extremely tough. We look, his first round matchup was Ben Billings, very tough opponent from Plymouth White Marsh. He gets a 7-0 win there, hits Dustin Stone, the 1 seed. Dispels him 3-2. Then he gets Lucas Martaccio, who I was super impressed with last night, coming out with 2 pins, including pinning Jacob Folk. And I was also Dan Labus. I was high on him. I thought he was a tough sophomore. He was a match away from states as a freshman.
Yep.
I expect him to be in that mix there at the end. And Labus well, covering him out at Chessmont. And he pinned him in 35 seconds. They were 2 cradle guys.
Yeah, you knew that match was ending in a cradle. It was just a matter of who was on top. So.
Exactly. So he had the upper hand, and Reddington with a nice win over Stone. And I thought, okay, well, rally's gonna set in, and no disrespect to Stone, I got the opportunity to meet him and his father this weekend, and then he just goes out and wins again.
Yeah.
And so, I kind of kept, and I talked about this in the preview, with my picking against Bryant Wise, and it was one of 2 things. One, I either owed him an apology for consistently picking against him, or he owed me a thank you because he just kept proving me wrong time and time again. And Reddington got the best of him. That's a match again. We talk about it. They wrestle 10 times. It's going to be even 50-50.
Yeah, and those are 2 guys. You look at them throughout the season, and they're like, well, a couple nice wins, couple losses. You're like, well, maybe they're not the same as they were last year. You get to regionals, and they just know how to win tight matches. And Reddington came out of not came out of nowhere because he was a state qualifier last year, but I don't think too many people picked him to win 145 with all those tough kids to get through. And he proved it like he did last year. He worked his way through and got on top.
You look in your blood round. You had Martaccio versus Kevin Edwards and Stone versus Eric Thomas. Stone and Thomas, 2 returning state qualifiers. One's not going.
Yep.
And then you still had Mikey O'Brien, Chris Berry. We said Labus. All in the mix there. And
that's a lot of it was a deep way. It didn't have like the superstar at the top, but there was 8 kids that you wouldn't totally be surprised if they made it.
Yep, and then we go to 152 pounds, and the matchup that everyone wanted to see, probably for most of the season, was Schwartz and Stevens, and they got it. And it ended up it was a close match, like everyone thought it would be. 2 contrasting styles. Stevens never really got on his offense, and again, that's a guy you covered, so you can elaborate a little bit more about that match because you've seen him, and Schwartz we covered a few times, and we just know from him he stays in solid position. He's always in your face. He's kind of like a grinder, and Stevens definitely did wrestles a completely different style than that.
Yeah, I mean Stevens is he kind of just goes with his hair on fire. That's when he's at his best. They're the way to beat him is you wait for him to make a mistake, and that's what Schwartz did tonight. Stevens got the first takedown. Schwartz got right back out, and then Chase got a little sloppy on a shot, and Schwartz capitalized, and all of a sudden it's 3-3 going into the third, and Schwartz has bottom, and he gets out, and when you got to force shots against a Council Rock South kid that they're just programmed to defend and be in good position, it gets harder, and Schwartz pulled it out. So.
I like that word "programmed" you just used to describe him. Another person I want to recognize at 152 pounds, Andrew Dibernardo from Westchester East. I was impressed with him earlier in the season. I was impressed with him again this weekend. Making it to semifinals, beating Mike Lockhoff from Upper Perk, and it was a close match, a tight match, and Lockhoff goes down to third. And I'm thinking to myself, I remember how tough Dibernardo is on top, and he'd
Yep.
been disappointed he got on top, and in a 4-4 match, and turned him, wrote him out for the period, and wins 7-4. So then he
There's some
drops down.
future there.
Yeah, he ran to Colin Shannon, super tough kid from North Penn in that blood round. But the reality of it is that he's just a freshman. It's great experience for him. So he's one of those guys in Chessmont. Along with Stevens that'll be back next year,
Hmm.
which is good. Moving on to 160, a little bit of controversy with this match.
Yeah.
Some people say that Iredale got robbed. It's not my place to say whether he did or not. I thought it, was a takedown, but I felt the official was quick to wave it off, or not wave it off, but not wait until he was 100% secure in the takedown to make the call. And time ran out, and for a while he was stepped over that leg, and then he wasn't. So I'm not saying Stillings was a beneficiary of that no call, but you know,
Yeah, I
you know,
mean that's a big point in the match. I think Stillings, that's his game is winning on his feet. I think he thought he had it. It might if he would have had it, it might even got back points if they would have awarded it
yeah,
at some time. But they didn't give it to him, and then I was surprised he took down. Going against Stillings, how tough he is on top riding,
yeah.
and he never got out.
Yep,
So
and that was the difference. He
yep.
got on top and he punched him, and just didn't give him an inch. So,
Yeah, I thought
you
if
know,
he took neutral in that third, he'd have a better shot to he was right there with Stillings on his feet. So
yeah.
you might as well you're going to the third period 1-0. You might as well wrestle where you're at your best. But
And I did all I did was pick against Iredale all year, and he really opened my eyes.
yeah, he looked good against Cox.
I was gonna say,
That
yeah,
was an eye opener.
you're a guy from the Chestmont there, and I was not able to make it up for the semis this morning. However, I heard he put down a takedown clinic
Yeah, he
against Cox, and
cradled up Cox and got 2 back points right off the bat. Was up 4-0 before I think the first 30 seconds, and it just went his way the rest of the way because Cox had to force stuff.
yeah, it's nice to Alcorn to see him, get out. And there was a weight class where Chestmont gets two and sends him to
Yeah, 3 Chester County guys.
so
But
yeah. Um, but so moving on to 170 pounds, this one was one I was adamant. I thought Stephen Rice was going to be the top guy here, and Shalinsky proved otherwise. Had a nice slick takedown in overtime, and got the win. But you know. Shalinsky versus wrestled a good match. Rice got in too many times, and Glenn Kaiser, I commented on it, I'm sure you saw. You get this level, and even in the next week, you get in deep on those shots, and you get the hips to the mat. You gotta score. You can't leave anything to chance. And that's exactly what happened. Stephen was in several times on his legs, and just couldn't get the finish, and it
yep.
meant the difference in the
And that
match.
whole bracket I thought was just about finishing matches. Liam Frank had Shalinsky almost beat
Yep.
last night. Shalinsky, gets the takedown at the end to win it. Cole Zaff had Stephen Rice. He was beating him 4-0 in the semifinals and kind of ran out of gas. And Rice came back and beat him. And you see how that works out. But it could have been it could have been Frank and Zaff if you finish your matches. Shalinsky and Rice finished their semis, and Shalinsky obviously finished that one in overtime to win his second straight regional title.
Yeah, and Zaf wrestles back and gets out, and so does uh, the Elijah Jones from Boyertown, both making their first
Three
trips.
three sets of brothers making it to states this year. The Zaffs, the Palmers, and the Campbells.
Yeah, how about
Oh,
that?
that's kind of just a random stat. But
Yeah, and as a journalist, that's what you do. You find those random things. So again, 170 not the deepest weight class. However, I think we got the four right guys going. I was never big on Liam Frank. I didn't was not impressed with him last week at districts, and Jones has been uh, very impressive at times. Other times, he's been average, but he had a very good tournament under the radar. He didn't give Shalinsky much trouble in the semis, but he came right back. Beats Isaiah Mays, who from Pottstown, he deserves a
yeah,
ton of credit.
he had a good
He had a
tournament.
good tournament.
Mays.
He had a good season.
Yeah,
His guy was kind of under the radar for Pottstown, and all he does is make it to that blood round. He
yep.
made further than the Mason Pennypacker did. So moving on, 182 pounds, kind of went as everyone in this gym expected as far as that final goes with Gentili and Harvey. They know each other so well, not much happens. What was the final score? 3-1.
3-1. Yeah, I mean those two guys that they wrestle, they do what they need to do to win, and they're not necessarily going to try to run up any scores either of them. So 3-1 was probably what you'd have your over under at 4.5 or so, right?
Yeah, and winning those close matches we got to do this level, and Gentili's made a living off of it with against Harvey, to
Yeah,
say the
there's
least.
nothing wrong with winning
Uh,
close. So.
the one of the more exciting matches for the time they were out there was that third place match. I got to catch it. I just happened to look to my right and see Bonomo just launching Hatzipavitas from Westchester Ruston and enlisted a huge like gasp from the crowd, and it was a big move, and similar to the Gavin Karoff at 220, which we'll talk to about in a few
hmm
minutes. So I think again there, the right four got out. Duliakis was in the mix there. Nate Brennan coming from out of Ridley, making all the way to that blood round as well. I don't think anyone had him there,
No.
myself included. It was just about the right four. Bonomo probably was the fourth best guy. Duliakis was beneficiary of the 2 seed because he was the runner-up to Harvey.
hmm
And then when they wrestled, Bonomo with 8-2 win. So again, I think our right four got out there at 182 pounds. How they'll fare up there, I know we'll get definitely two on the on the podium in Hershey. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past seeing a Gentili Harvey state final.
Yeah, be good.
And I talked to Greg afterwards before they left, and I said one of these times a lot of averages says one of these times you have to beat them. And he's like, I know, and so, and I wouldn't put it past. I really like Hatzipavitas because I think he's a real solid wrestler. And I had a conversation with Brad Hawkins earlier in the year. I remember when he was this gangly, long, like all arms and legs freshman, when I was coaching Phoenixville and wrestled Ruston,
Yeah.
and you just knew like he had something, and you weren't sure what it was. And to see him now, he was already state qualifier once, and see he's grown into this like physically imposing guy. And yeah, he lost tonight, but it doesn't take away from the fact that he's making a second trip there. He knows what to expect, and I can see him pushing to be in that round to get on the podium.
Yeah, and second straight year he beat a Ridley kid to make it to states. His Ridley coach Tony Fabry was an old Ruston assistant,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm sure he's kind of sick of seeing his old wrestlers in the blood round.
Yeah, yeah. So let's move on to 195 pounds. I didn't see this one coming. As far as a pin by Joe Doyle, I thought Joe Doyle would take control of this match and win. However, I didn't see the first period pin, but yeah, I think Doyle, like I'm gonna quote you. Those Rock South guys, they're programmed differently, and when the pressure's on and it's just part of the season, they just seem to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, and I think we should be happy that he's at 195. It's one of those weight classes, you know, especially around District 1 and even statewide, where it's one of those weight classes where you don't get a ton of excitement all the time. Joe Doyle is that guy that can throw a little bit. He had that nice throw for the first takedown,
Yeah.
and then he's on top. He can get anybody on their back and finish it. He's actually fun to watch at 195, which
Yeah, and
is
he's
a
not your
pleasure.
typical he's not your typical Rock South guy. He gets on top, starts riding those legs,
hmm
and he cranks guys over. You don't, it's not of their typical mold,
Yep.
but fun nonetheless. Again, Frizzy, if he's healthy, I think it's Frizzy and Doyle in that final. That was the semi. It was a 3-0. They wrestled earlier in the year. It was a 1-0 match. Walker again. Walker might be the most unassuming guy
Seriously.
but he
I think I
is.
called him sneaky good in my preview. He
Yeah,
just
he is, and I think you're right. I remember reading that. Like you look at him, and you're like, that's him. He's
yeah.
27 too,
Yeah.
and then he gets on you, and he gets his hands on you, and he's he just controls you, and he's a thrower. You gotta be aware of that, and you know, it's nice to see him going as a senior. He had a win over Brody O'Connell to get there. And again, you can't sleep on any four of these guys going at 195 pounds. If Rizzy can stay healthy and can keep the elbow going good, uh, he might find the podium. He was there last year, knows what to expect. Kennerly, we'll see. Hopefully, just a junior. He's got a bright future ahead of him. I just hope the bright lights down at Hershey don't stun him.
Yeah, I mean it's the Delco wrestlers don't always have the best luck their first trips to Hershey, so hopefully for his sake he can overcome that. But I think Walker might be the only Suburban One American Division wrestler to make it to states. Is that there were only
I,
7 of them I think here.
yeah, because
Devlin didn't make it, so I think Walker might be the last one standing out of that division.
yeah, I can almost. It was the two Amy brothers, Walker, Fuentes, Devlin. Just the top of my head, that's 5.
Yeah,
and so yeah.
Williams and Billings, I think the other two were
Oh
from
yeah,
PW. So
PW. Yeah, you're right. Those are the seven, and that's unfortunate, but they were riding high
at
for a
least they
while
got
there.
somebody there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's ebbs and flows. Moving on to 220, it was the weight class that was what was left when Jordan Wood announced he would not be wrestling the postseason, and that's where we'll leave it. I want to focus on the guys that are there. We've done enough thanking Jordan Wood for what he did, and Gavin Karoff, guy likes to put on points, likes to score, likes to throw. Gave the fans what they wanted,
Absolutely.
and not taking anything from Cade Lamar or Lamar. I'm not sure exactly how he pronounces it, but he got a little bit too aggressive. And again, that's just the experience factor. But
Yeah. I was out during the actually during the 182 weight class. I was out talking to a kid for an interview, and then I came out and said, "What happened to Hatzibilides?" I talked to the wrestling coach. He said, "Oh, the Quakertown kid threw him." I said, "Well, this Quakertown kids can do some. They can throw some kids because I remember Karoff last year headlocking McGuire from Coatesville. Who everyone kind of figured maybe had a good shot at the finals last year, and lo and behold, 2 matches later, Karoff follows his teammate up with a nice throw in the finals to get it done.
yeah,
So
Kurt Handel and that staff up there, they're practicing a lot of throws, I guess. Cade Lemare from Conestoga kind of comes out of nowhere. A lot of people, I don't know if he even showed up in the rankings up until recently. And, all he's done is become a regional finalist, state qualifier as a junior. And, you know, again, he's peaking at the right time. I'm hoping Conestoga kind of, it's good when those teams on the main line are good. And it's good, the Central League and things like that. And it only makes the region better. So
yeah,
it's nice, this hopefully sparks some more interest. Iredale Lamar, they had two finalists. I don't know when the last time Conestoga got two
it's been a
finalists.
while, and
Yeah,
last year Conestoga, it wasn't a good showing. Iredale was undefeated. It was 1-2 coming out, so it was good to see those two Conestoga boys, get to states and hopefully get that program, back on the rise.
yeah. Now I had Spriggs in the finals. My picks after the rebracket, and Lemaire beat him 3-0 in the semis earlier today, and then Modugno or however they say it from Upper Perk beat Spriggs in the 3-4 match. Upon watching again, I think I see Spriggs struggling
He's just
upstate
so short
with
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 the,
the, with the height,
yeah,
and I liked it, and I would like to see the match of him and Karoff, two similar body styles, two guys like to get after it,
yeah,
get up and mix it up, but these taller
it's
220s,
tough.
keep him at bay and keep him from getting to his offense. So maybe it'll be a little different, seeing different faces, different guys that don't know much about him, and best of luck to him as well. But Spriggs, another guy, was a freshman. He was a freshman 220 pounder on that same Westchester Rustin team when I was coaching against them, and to see what he's matured into, it's great. It's nice to see these guys like putting the time in and getting better, and
Yep,
you know the staff there at Westchester Rust, and they work tirelessly. They could run two practices a day. They have too many kids for the room. The room's too small, so they have to run two practices to service all the kids. They have like 50 kids on the roster, so that's
it's
great.
a good problem to have.
Exactly. It's a number. It's always a numbers game, and when you have a lot of numbers, that's a good thing. It's bad when you have to run two practices and you're there all night. But it's again, it's a good sign of your program, and Harkins and that crew have things going in the right
Yep,
direction.
they're gonna be a team to watch next year too.
They are. They don't lose a whole lot. Um, Final at 285. A lot of fireworks, and it was Glenn and I kept going back to, for the casual fan watching that match, they might have been bored by it, but for like the wrestling fans that appreciate it, it was a great match because they were just, heavy hand fighting, getting those hooks and trying throwing and going for leg attacks, and then they got upper body, and the way Killer back trips him on the edge of the mat there, and not getting the back and drags him back in and plants him and gets the pin, and was named OW for it. I mean, rightfully so. Graber put it on him in the last time they wrestled in the fifth and sixth place match. So
Yeah, I thought it was good. I like watching him just because he's not going for the 2-1 ultimate tiebreaker
no,
ride out win. He wants to pin you every time, and I think that comes from his coaching staff and having Jordan in the room too. But yeah, I mean, the smile that was on his face after he won, it was
yeah,
kind of a a cool look. He
Yeah,
he
they're
said
not
like he
doing
was a big teddy bear with a big smile. And
exactly, and
it
he's
looked
like the baby face.
yeah, exactly.
You know that yeah, those both neither of those heavyweights are the belly bumping type. They're just gonna push each other for 6 minutes.
Nope.
They're there to wrestle. Vince Walls with the win over Augustin in the 3-4
That was
match.
impressive. Yeah.
It was. Again, Vince Walls another guy that kind of just flew under the radar this year. No one really knew much about him, and he comes in the postseason.
Yeah.
He's 31
He's
and
been
2.
ranked fourth all year, but I
Yeah,
think it's been
yeah,
there's top three and then whoever else. We'll
exactly.
find a fourth.
And
But
now it's I wouldn't just say it was. It's not even. I put him obviously ahead of Augustin because he beat him, but like clearly ahead. He was dominant tonight. He from start to finish.
yeah, he didn't catch Augustin. He was
No.
up I think 4-1 at the
Yeah,
time or
and
4-2
he cranked him over.
yep.
So going back in order, we turn back over to the lightweights and the bracket that was just blown up in the quarterfinals Friday night by downtown East Lucas Ritchie. Upset, made one of the big upsets of the tournament. He beats Matt Wild. That kind of sent this bracket into a tailspin because, it looked like three of the top four were going to be Brandon Meredith from Springford, Luke Resnick from O&J, and Matt Wild from Boyertown. But that loss then put Wild up top, and when Resnick lost to Meredith, or even if Meredith lost, like one of those three weren't going to go, and that's what it
It was a
immediately
tough
meant.
break for Resnick.
It was,
Both of them, I guess. But
exactly, yeah, and we'll talk more about Ryan in a little bit. But looking back, Tyler Williams, one of these impressive young guys for Souderton. I can't say enough good things about him, but Brandon Meredith just put it on him, just stalked him, was in his face the whole time, and even when he was up 5-1 or whatever, or 7-1, he still got a takedown again, made 9-1 or 9. I think it was like 9-2, and then Wild wrestling Doug Zapp down at the bottom there, and Zapp, it was nice to see him get through. I had him getting there, but I think I had him uh, beating Brandon Meredith for third in that match.
yeah,
I had them wrestling. They obviously wrestled yesterday, and then I had them flip flopping. But Doug Zapp was just impressive down the stretch. He taking out Lucas Ritchie there in the blood round, third week in a row. I believe they wrestled.
yeah, yep.
Third time in a
Fourth
third.
time this season,
Yeah.
and yep.
So Luke Resnick was right in the mix there. So we got four good 6-pounders going to Hershey. Is it our four best? That's debatable.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say no because I don't want to take anything away from the guys who are going. This was a very deep weight class, very, very deep. You just talk about those guys that we talked about: Zaff, Wild, Williams, Resnick, Meredith. Seth Hoops was an impressive freshman from Octorara.
I mean that whole bracket's coming back next year.
Yeah,
So
Coons with the big win over Altraj in the first round. Coons was there towards the end. He got beat by Wild in the Concy quarter. So, you know, no one's leaving. That's all talent that we get back next year,
yeah,
which is
so
great.
absolutely.
So one of our other marquee matchups was 113 pounds and pitted Jacob Campbell versus Matt Parker. And I had Campbell all week, and I had Campbell for a while. He's been top of my ballot for the rankings. But Matt Parker was on another level tonight.
He looked good. He was aggressive on top, got the back points, and that's another one. Like Harvey and Gentili at 82. You get 4 points, 4-1 lead. It's almost it's like
Mail
a
it in.
blowout at that point. So
Yeah, and Campbell had no answer for what Parker had tonight. And we joked. I was joking with some of the coaches with Joe Horvath. Scott Parker was out there drilling with Matt before the match and during the warm up period, and then Scott was in his corner and talked about during the broadcast how Matt is lucky to have the brother that orchestrated the blueprint of what it means to be successful as a high school wrestler, and he just emulates his brother did. They wrestle the same style, and you can tell that Matt Parker definitely made a level change and put himself, solidified himself ahead of Jacob Campbell. And you can't forget about Aiden Burke or
hmm
James Stromer. That Stromer Burke match was a 3-0 match.
yeah, yeah,
And I was trying to catch both matches while they're happening. Maintain focus on the finals. But Stromer's a guy, and I says to Wade when Wade sat with us that I really got to take a liking to this Downingtown East team. They're a great dual meet team, great kids, fun to watch, fun to be around. And Stromer is one of the guys I was really glad to see make it in. And he had to beat another Chestnut
It's the
kid,
ninth
Jake
the
Reed.
ninth time they wrestled him and Reed, and it's the seventh time he's beat him. So
Second time?
seventh.
Seventh
So
time you beat
he's
him?
7-2 in the series. He got his 100th win yesterday, but yeah, it's just every. I mean, I know he got the pin, but that was a 2 or 3 point match at the time of the fall. All 9 matches between Reed and Stromer, I think, were within 4 points
Yeah.
up in the fall. It just kind of happened at the end of the match when it was all but over. But yeah, it's nice to see some of the East seniors get out. Him and Horn,
Yeah.
obviously Cummings, but
So again, this is a weight class at Hershey that I think, we talked about six. At 106, I think we can put, you know, two guys on the podium at 106 safely. And but I'm not going to say which two because who knows? Like you kind of just draw out of a hat and who gets hot. Same at 113. 113, I safely say we should. I'm not going to say we will. We should put three on the podium. Same three that were on it last year: Parker, Burke, and Campbell. Uh, don't ask me for what place they're going to be in. I got to look at the brackets first. I got to go get into the lab and hatch things out. And that'll be during the you'll see that on the video review this week. So again, this is one of our stronger weight classes. It's a weight class where we as a region need to make a statement at states and get guys on the podium.
I think it's good for the Penridge boys. I think all four. I think they had four qualifiers, but they all won their last matches. I hope that gives them a little mojo going into the states. I know it was disappointing for a lot of them last year. Just all Gentili and Parker had high hopes of getting to the finals, but the way they were able to get their offense going this week, hopefully they can carry that over next week and keep it rolling.
Yeah, and in a 120 pounds again, a deep weight class for District One. You have Hunter Mitch, who's just wrestling out of his mind right now, coming out with the win tonight, beating Matt Marino for a second week in a row. I'm still not convinced Matt Marino's not cutting a lot of weight. I'm still not convinced he's acclimated to the weight yet. Just didn't look himself to me. But I mean, he did pull out some big wins early on. We talked about it beating Callender early, first round, one of probably the marquee matchup of the first round. Then for his win, he gets Gunnar Foos, I'm sorry, from Truman, who is just along with like the likes of Ryan Vulak and Brandon Sheffield, Andrew Dibernardo, the future of District One. He's just a tough kid. He beats him, and then takes out David Campbell from Boyertown, makes a final against Hunter Mitch, who beat him last week, and Mitch beats him again.
I think
Uh,
yeah, I think Hunter Mitch and the spring forward kids deserve a lot of credit. I think obviously all the attention and rightly so has been to Boyertown this year, and spring forward had a little bit of a down year in terms of total team success, but their kids wrestled really well today. I mean, Meredith wasn't going to get beat at 106. Hunter Mitch, I think I would I'd probably bet that a lot of people said, oh, that was a fluke last week. Marina's going to get him again this week if they go again, and all Hunter Mitch does is go out there and get a couple tough decisions and wins it. So credit to him.
Yeah, and again, this weight class is loaded, and you gotta give credit, Brandon Bach and Taylor. Taylor had not having the best tournament. Jackson Erb, uh, you know, um, in that blood round, he had Campbell versus Brandon Bach, and Campbell getting 3-1 victory, and then Foose and Sheffield, and Foose winning 2-0, and Foose beating Campbell. Again, did we get the right four? I don't know. It's not my choice. But we got the four who had the best tournament that are going on, and I think I don't put it past the fact that if Mitch continues to wrestle as well, that he doesn't make it on the podium. Again, I know there's some talent at 120 pounds. I say safely we could land two guys on the podium from this group, and it could be any one of them. Foose had a setback there, but then got on his offense after losing to Marino, and beats Tommy Luke 9-2, beats Tavani from Haverford 13-0, beat Sheffield, who was a week ago the OW at the Central tournament.
It's a last
And
second victory there too.
yeah,
Sheffield was trying to tilt him and he got a little high and Foose just hopped over and got the takedown or the reversal with 2 seconds left. So
so there you have it. We're deep there, and underclassmen with the exception of Mitch as well. So
that kind of reminds me of the 45 class. I think a lot of good talent there. I don't know if it has the top tier talent statewide, but I think there's a lot of kids that a ton of kids that are solid there. So hopefully
yeah.
they'll battle.
All right, so rounding out the last few here, we had Wade Cummings receiving a medical forfeit from Lucas Miller. Lucas Miller nursing a little bit of a rib injury. Don't know the severity of it. It's unfortunate this time of the year, but he heard it last night, came back and wanted to beat Rush, beats him in an ultimate tiebreaker, and gets into the final and takes medical forfeits to Wade Cummings. Down on the flip side, in the bottom half of the bracket, Kerry Palmer and Rush wrestled, and I gotta give a lot of credit, and Kerry Palmer earned my respect. Not that he didn't have it, he earned more respect because he just had a great tournament. Grinding out some wins. I had him losing to Dan Mancini. All he did was kind of control that match. Then he loses in the semis to Wade, drops down. He has to beat a tough, tough, tough Noah Hankin that I didn't see coming, and 7-3 at that. I just didn't see that coming. I just felt that Hankin was this was gonna be it for him. I felt that this was gonna be the year that he punched the ticket, and unfortunately wasn't.
I don't even want to take away anything from Palmer, but I just almost you see Council Rocks out there, and you're like, well, it's not that big of a surprise just because of the program they come from. But yeah, absolutely, Kerry wrestled a great tournament. He almost beat Rush at the end there for third place, but he earned his trip to Hershey. It wasn't any kind of fluke thing. He wrestled really really well, and he definitely earned his spot. Wade Cummings, takes the medical forfeit, kind of an anticlimactic way to get his second regional title. But with that win, he became the fifth in District One history with 177 wins.
Wow.
So kind of capping a great career, one of the best ones in the Chesmont. It's a shame that the fans tonight didn't get to see him one last time, go in the finals. But he's going to be one of those guys that they miss in the next, in the near future.
Yeah, that's why you got to come out to the semis. You never know what's going to happen in the finals. So we already talked 138 a little bit, so we'll talk 132. Again, it was a rematch from the District 1 East last week. Zach Trampay and Ryan Vulak. Trampay from Rock South, everyone knows, a returning state runner-up, and Ryan Vulak, a very talented freshman from North Penn. It was 12-5 last week. This week it was a dominant 9-3. Trampay right from the jump had his way with him, and I didn't. I felt Vulak had the opportunity to close the gap, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, all Trampay's heard is this kid's gonna close the gap. He's gonna,
Yeah,
he's gonna figure you out. And I think he took it to heart.
I'm sure. And Trampay, I mean, he did not look himself the first two matches this tournament. Really labored against Dylan Henry in the first round, and then got by a tough Ryan Resnick, but. He looked like he was miserable. I don't know if he's hurt or sick. He just looked completely out of whack and just kind of hanging on for wins. Obviously, that shows how talented he is. He still got by. And then I saw him before the finals, before everybody was while everyone was warming up, he's doing cartwheels and somersaults, and he looked like his old self. And he came out and laid the wood in the finals.
Yeah, that's an understatement. And then you had in that blood round, Resnick versus Mager. It was the third week in a row they wrestled. Resnick getting the best of him the first time in the Pac-10 final. Mager getting the best of him in the final last week. And, it was more the same of what we saw last week. Mager got on top, down, or I'm sorry, when a tie match, turns them for three. Resnick gets a late reversal, can't do anything with it, loses 5-4 for a trip to States. Mager's first trip, Resnick was looking for the return trip, didn't get it. And, you know, again, another guy I got to give my hats off to. And Coach Horvath and from Downtown East and I were talking about this before the final started. And then we included in our conversation Coach Fantazzi and Conti from Garnet Valley, Nick Politti. He was left for dead. He really was. And I'm not gonna lie, coming off a year in which you're a state qualifier, you expect that, come in and just kind of almost be dominant, and that'd be a level change. And he was up and down. He's like Kerry Palmer, like the ebbs and flows. And he came in with a record 25-14. You're like, oh, he's returning state qualifier, and he loses his first round match, and that was like almost a blessing. It put him in that lower half of the consolation bracket, and he avoided Garrett Mager, and well, he avoided Garrett Mager until the consolation final, when he already punched his ticket to go back to states second time, and he drops down. He beats Dylan Henry, who gave Trampay all he wanted on
Yep,
Friday.
that's who I thought would get to the Conti semis from that side. So yeah.
And he comes out, all he does is win 3-2, and then he gets Eric Fuentes, and Fuentes was you know having a great season, and then he beats him 2-1. He grinds another one out, and then he gets Kyle Medro, and again, Kyle Medro, the senior, last chance, and this is a match to go to states, and beats Metro.
Metro's up 2-0 early, and Politi gets a cradle. He had him in a cradle the whole second period. Led a 3-2 going into the third. And Medjo tried to turn him in the third, never got it. Eventually let him go and tried to take him down. But Politi, he's kind of in that Reddington Bryant Wise group where he had some losses this year. We're like, well, I kind of thought he'd win that match. I kind of thought he'd win that match, and then when it matters most, he just knows how to get it done and survive. I mean, it's similar to last year. He got through when I think a lot of people didn't pick him to get through.
Yeah, and he's training every day with Matt Marino. They have a good room down there in Garden Valley, and like I said before, Rocco Fantazi and that program down there have been doing great things for years. And it's no surprise. However, I don't. No one called it, and if you did, you're lying. you know,
Your
uh,
last name's Politi.
exactly. And I even know. I even talked to his dad, and if you watch this, we talked, and he even said too he didn't expect this to happen. As I was following from home today, and as I was out and about running some errands, like it's like, oh, he just keeps winning, and is he gonna make the run again and do it? And lo and behold, he does. So again, we talked 138 already. That was the first one we talked about was our marquee match. Looking at 132, uh, you know, I say we definitely get Trampe on the podium somewhere. Top, it should be top two, should be one. Vulak, who knows? He's so technically sound. We actually had Wade Cummings in talking, and he uh, he talked about how basic he was, but how good he was at the basics. And you never know what Mager. If Mager gets on top, he's turned Trampe this year. I don't put anything past the kid.
Yeah, you got the ability to be a dominant on top. You can save points by riding. You can potentially earn points by tilting. You got anything happens in those consolation rounds up at states.
Yep.
Kids don't take losses well. You never know what's going to happen. So I think that's what makes it so fun.
I don't know about you. I'm never betting against Nick Politti again.
I guess not. Yeah, at
Who
this
knows what's
point.
gonna happen? Like I think a lot of people are gonna look past him, and he's just that scrappy kid that's gonna we least expect it slap a crate on you and ride you for a full 2 minutes with it. So
Yeah.
well, Nate, anything you looking forward to this weekend coming up?
I just think it's it's like I said, I thought it was a deeper region this year, but I want to see how it translates. Obviously, District One, it's not one of the favorites in terms of regions to do well in Hershey. Obviously, you got the Northeast and the Southwest that they pride themselves on their wrestling. So I always enjoy seeing how District One goes up there and competes and tries to make a name for themselves. I think we have some really good kids that could make it to the finals. Obviously, not having Jordan Wood hurts almost a guaranteed championship, but I think there's definitely kids, Trampe, maybe Cummings makes a run at 26. Cronin or Palmer, maybe. Well, that's a tough weight class with those kids, but maybe
Yeah.
Sasso and what's the kid's name will be on the same side. You never know. So,
Yeah.
but
White is it White from
no, it's the two-time champ that beat Parker. I can't
oh
blanking on his name.
from
Out west there.
yeah, I can see it.
We look really dumb right now
Yeah, I
because this
know.
guy's like one
I
of the
know.
best wrestlers in the country. Hopefully,
Yeah.
no one's watching at this point.
Yeah. I can't even remember school. It was orange and black. I can see the guy's face, and I know we're gonna probably get slaughtered on the.
Pletcher, that's
Yeah,
it.
thank you, Mike. Mike on the side, Johnny on the spot, Luke Pletcher.
Yeah,
Uh,
just a no-namer from out
exactly.
west.
Someone that's easy to overlook. You can tell it's been a long weekend. It's been a long 2 days, and our brains are kind of fried. We can't remember the likes of Luke Fletcher, and that's terrible. Shame on us. I know. And, feel free to. This is as bad as me falling asleep during one of the previews. So again, feel free to tee off on us, or me in particular. But again, having a lot of fun doing this, Nate. I appreciate you coming on. It means a lot that you take a little bit
Yeah,
extra
thanks for
time.
having me.
I know you're on deadline with some stuff you got going for the Daily Local, so it doesn't mean a lot. And again, the fans that came up and introduced themselves this weekend, again, thank you for tuning in to what we're doing here. We're just trying to promote the sport, and a sport that doesn't get a lot of notoriety, and guys like Nate that write about it, and that you see the passion in what they do, and they write through when they're writing. You know, it makes it that much better. You have guys that are like that religiously go and write about it. Jeff Stovers at places, and Dennis Weller, and guys like that come out and do right by the sport, it's much appreciated. And this is a little something that I can give back. That I'm grateful to have this opportunity, and I'm grateful that people take time to come and introduce themselves. I'm getting to like and the kids that come up to me and tell me how wrong I am, and please feel free to. And if that motivates you, good. I'm glad. I hope it motivates you, and it's not nothing malicious. I'm just going with my picks, and I hope that everyone from parents to grandparents to the wrestlers themselves, at least enjoy a little bit of what we're doing here. So again, Nate, yeah, any other closing
Yeah, I think
remarks?
just hats off to Souderton too. I think this was, their kind of their debut tournament. Beautiful new gym here, beautiful new walkway to come in. It's just plenty of room. I thought it was a good crowd. I think it's a little bit more neutral than or more central than
Yeah,
some of the other choices that have, it's obviously tough to find a willing and able gym, and
yeah.
Souderton did a nice job this weekend. So
I think so too. This was top notch, very well run. I'm just gonna say Souderton. There's too many people to thank. It was the community came out in droves and got this. Table workers, security. This was probably the best run regional tournament security wise, where they kept the people where they should have. They realized early on yesterday they didn't have proper, the ropes up and stuff like that. They went and got more rope and rope areas off, and they talked about it last night when we were here doing our recap about what they need to do to be better today. Like they were very self-aware of what they did and how they ran it. And again, that's it's top notch. The great location, run great, community involvement. So again, I'm gonna echo what Nate said in their debut. This was awesome. Uh, this is we're gonna sign off right now. It's like I said, Nate Heckenberger here from the Daily Local. Check out his articles. Check out what he writes. He does a phenomenal job covering Chessmont and that area. And keep checking it on the site. Brackets will be up sometime tomorrow, hopefully from states once all the results are posted. I'm not giving it time. Don't email Mike. You can put it on the forum all you want. Mike will tell you, and he'll give you the same answer he's going to give everyone else. When all results are posted and brackets are approved, they will be posted for the public to see. So, without anything else, this is Joe Youngblood. We're going to sign off here. Thank you again for tuning in, and look